Let's cultivate our motivation. And let's pull ourselves out of the viewpoint of just this life and see this life as like a karmic bubble, something being produced due to causes and conditions in our previous actions. What we call I or self, something changing, produced by causes and conditions, never remaining the same in the next moment. And the I being just what's merely labeled in dependence upon this body and mind, but the body also being what's merely labeled in dependence upon the collection of its atoms and molecules, and the mind existing by being merely labeled in dependence on collection of mind moments. And so within this ever-changing body and mind that we can't find anyway is inherently existent, where in the world are we going to find a true identity that is really me? And although there's no true identity that's a real me, still, we're alive, we experience things due to causes and conditions, and our actions now are creating the causes and conditions for what this merely labeled I will experience in the future. And so, due to some great fortune, having created the causes and conditions, we have a precious human life this lifetime. But it's not who we are, it's not a fixed life, it's not a fixed identity. It's disintegrating and changing in each moment. And so therefore it's important to use it wisely. And not just let the time pass idly. Not just let our mind do whatever it wants carelessly. But let's try and steer our energy in a positive direction, aiming it at full enlightenment, so that we can repay the kindness of other living beings. So cultivate that as our motivation for being here. But remember, there's no findable I that's here, although you're listening. Although there's people listening, when we look for those people in their bases of designation, we can't find them. We can find them in the room, but we can't find them in the basis of designation. Are you here in the room? Yes? Yes. Can you point to something that's you? What's the you that's in the room? What's the you that's in the room? Doesn't feel like a merely labeled one, does it? I'm here. There's a big fat me in this room, not a merely labeled one. A big fat one. Yeah, that the whole world revolves around. Right here in this room. That's what it feels like. Doesn't it? Yeah. But that's why we shouldn't just go on appearances. We should dig a little bit deeper. And what is this I that's sitting here in this room? What's this I that wants to be happy? Who's the I that has so many opinions about the way other people should be? Who are the other people you're having so many opinions about? They're real, aren't they? They're real and they're really like this. You're sure of it. That's what it feels like. But if we investigate, and we have to really investigate. We can't just glibly say, oh, well, there's no people here, Oh, you can't find them when you look. You have to really look. Yeah, really look. Now, who's this person that I think is here? Who's this person that I can't live without? Who in the world is it? Yeah, when your mind gets in, I miss so-and-so. Yeah, how many meditation sessions do you spend missing people? I miss so-and-so. Yeah. 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 Who are you missing? Who's that person that you're missing? Yeah, really look and try and find out who they are. Oh, it's my whatever, they are in relationship to you. Oh, what's that relationship about? Yeah, feels like it's so real. Yeah, especially blood relations. Yeah, that person's my, child, sibling, mother, father, grandparents, cousins. Yeah, it's real. They're special somehow. Why? Why? What makes them special somehow? Yeah? What makes them special? Well, we're blood relatives. You put some of their blood here and some of your blood here. That's real special. Yeah, yeah. And some blood relatives we're not close to, and it's like, why are people making such a big deal? Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's time shared, but where's that time now? Yeah, we spent months or years or days or decades with people. Yeah, we have a whole catalog. Maybe we've kept a journal of everything we've done with them. I was talking to somebody today who was visiting a friend of mine, and she has 46 photo albums, you know? And she knew exactly where the one was that had me in it from an event we attended together about 14 years ago, you know? So you have a lot of photo albums and a lot of stories, but then, yeah, how does that make us close? Where does that closeness exist? Inside the photos? You know, all of that, it's gone. It's gone. Yeah? And 100 years from now, all the photo albums, all of our journals, you know, we've kept all of our everything, you know, our souvenirs from this and that, our family heirlooms. You know? Kind of somebody will come upon it and in the barn and, oh, what's this junk out here? We do that now when we find each other's stuff in the barn, don't we? Whose box of junk is this? Why are they saving this? And yet for that person it's like so important. Yeah. It's me, meaning of my life. We saw one picture of him that was really something. Keep it to bribe him with. Yeah. But it's interesting to look at all the things that we treasure and that we think are so important and so real and everything. Yeah. Here and gone, here and gone, here and gone. You know, there was a big fly dying in my room last night. I thought it was a goner, but today it was still walking around. And I was thinking, you know, that could be my mom. But my mom's gone, you know? Yeah. Continuity exists, but where's that person? You know, where's the person who died? Where's the person who was alive? And so same with us. So when you think about this, it really makes you think, well, what's important? You know, what is really important? And all the things we're hanging on to. Are they really important? Okay. My glasses. Maybe someday somebody will put them in a museum. The glasses Tupten children wore. Come on! You know, really ridiculous. And yet we'll go to a museum and we'll look at the glasses somebody wore, won't we? Yeah, I remember being in the Gandhi Museum in Bombay, and you know, the glasses Gandhi wore. Okay, so our next instruction says, in the future, always put on the armor. Okay. So this refers to putting on the armor-like determination not to be separated from the awakening mind under any circumstances in the future until you have attained Buddhahood. Okay. The Cloud of Jewels Sutra recommends the determination to acquaint yourself with the awakening mind and never to be separated from it as a cause of not being parted from it. Okay? In other words, if you have a strong determination to always have the bodhicitta in your mind, that becomes a cause never to be separated from the bodhicitta. But we have to have a strong determination never to be separated from the bodhicitta. I was reading today one of the teachings by a Chinese master, Pei Shun, and he was saying, talking about the importance of generating bodhicitta and then keeping it in the mind thought after thought, so that every single thought after thought after thought is bodhicitta, holding the bodhicitta in the mind like that in every thought. Or even if the bodhicitta isn't, the manifest mind, having whatever we're doing being supported by an underlying motivation of bodhicitta, so that our actions are supported by it. In other words, that it's not just you generate bodhicitta and then it's out the window and ignorance, anger, and attachment flood in. Okay? But really trying thought after thought to maintain that, maintain the bodhicitta in the mind. Okay, so now explanation of what appears in the text as maxims. And so this first one here is quite interesting. It says, don't apply a wrong understanding. Or another translation for it is, don't follow inverted deeds. So this is going to talk about 6 kinds of attitudes that we can have where we get them completely upside down, where we focus them on the wrong people or the wrong situation. Yeah, but they're important attitudes, but we do them upside down. Okay, so let's look at the first one. This will become clear here. Okay, we should acquaint ourselves with compassion for sentient beings tormented by various sufferings. Right? That's good, isn't it? Acquaint ourselves with compassion for sentient beings. That's okay. Yeah, so compassion's important. But to feel pity for those who are slightly troubled by lack of food or clothes as a result of their endeavoring to listen to and think about the Dharma is inverted compassion. In other words, okay, there's some Dharma practitioner who's given something up in order to practice Dharma. Maybe they don't have such nice clothes, they don't eat so much good food, they don't have such a nice place to live, they don't have sex, they don't go to parties, they're not watching movies. People look and go, oh wow, you're suffering so much. You can't do all those things, you must be suffering so much. Like people would look at Milarepa and go, oh, you're all green and skinny, so much suffering, I have so much compassion for you. Yeah, but what this is saying is that's inverted compassion. Yeah, because that kind of person is practicing the Dharma and making their life meaningful. And so the fact that they sacrifice a little bit of happiness in this life is actually no big deal because they're doing what they want to, and they're living a beneficial life. But those are the people we have compassion for. Whereas what we should do is have compassion for all sentient beings, including all of those who are very successful in a worldly way. Yeah, usually people who are very successful worldly, who have a lot of possessions, a lot of fame and reputation, who are bigwigs and are very well connected and so on and so forth. We don't have compassion for them. We think, wow, they have everything, and we're jealous. Yeah. But instead, we have compassion for, somebody who's practicing the Dharma because, gee, they don't get married, they don't have a family, they can't watch the next episode of this program on TV, Okay, so what it's saying is that's inverted compassion. We're having compassion for the wrong kind of people. Okay, our compassion should be for especially, it doesn't mean don't have compassion for practitioners, but it's saying, it's the people whose minds are overrun by ignorance, anger, and attachment who should be the main objects of our compassion. Yeah, instead of feeling jealous of those people who are successful in a worldly way. Are you getting what I'm saying? Yeah? How it's inverted compassion? Okay. And the second one says, we need to set an intention to gain ultimate enlightenment for the sake of all living beings. Okay? So that's good, right? Setting an intention to gain enlightenment for the sake of all living beings. But to do so out of interest in worldly prosperity in general, and in the rewards and honor of this life and in future, and in this life in particular, is a perverse intention. Okay? So we want to have the intention to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. But if we're having that intention, like with our mouth, but really our motivation is worldly prosperity, and we want, offerings, and we want praise, and we want renown in this life, or even, just seeking a good future life with a lot of power and social status or something, but in the name of practicing the Dharma, that's an inverted intention. Okay? Did I read the right one? Okay, so here we, instead of having a very strong intention for Dharma practice, we have a strong intention for meaningless diversions of this life. Okay, you getting what I'm saying? Is it clear? Okay, so we want strong intentions. Sometimes I think this book needs to be retranslated. Yeah, because the way some of the wordings are, it's very confusing. If I go by this, it's much clearer. Okay? So we need a strong intention, but our intention has to be purely for enlightenment, not a strong intention for the benefits of this life. Okay? And especially not using Dharma as an excuse to get the benefits of this life. Okay, then the third one is we should have an intention. Actually, that one I just read is inverted aspiration. It says intention here, but here it says aspiration. I think it's better to call it an inverted aspiration. Instead of having a strong aspiration for enlightenment, we have a strong aspiration for worldly success and renown. Okay, then the third one. We should have an intention to elevate all sentient beings to the state of a Buddha. This one, I'm sure, is not a good translation. But to involve ourselves in taking care of the property of the three jewels in general and the spiritual community in particular, in the hope that they will befriend us, is a perverse intention, a perverse loyalty. That I find not very clear. Yeah, I think this needs a new translation, with all due respect to whoever translated it. Okay, this one says it's inverted loyalty. Okay, so we should be loyal to the Dharma. Okay, and we should be loyal to sentient beings in the sense of doing something that benefits them. Okay, and benefits them in the Dharma and leading them in the Dharma and helping them to create good karma. But instead, our loyalty is that we lure others, especially family members and good friends, into worldly activities, or ask them to do non-virtuous actions on our behalf, but we don't try to guide them to the Dharma. Okay? So it's an inverted kind of loyalty. Yeah? Because loyalty is good, isn't it? I was thinking about this because I've been reading this book about juvenile hall. And, when you have gangs, they have very strict ethical codes in a gang. Yeah? Yeah. And when you're in a gang, you are completely loyal to your homies. Yeah? Completely loyal to them. It's like being in an army. You're completely loyal with your other compatriots. Yeah. But instead of leading those people with your loyalty in a good direction, you're leading them in gang activities or leading them in warfare. So similar, we may care about a lot of people, yeah, but instead of using our influence and our loyalty to them to lead them into the Dharma and to encourage them to live in a virtuous way, we encourage them to do non-virtuous activities on our behalf, or we encourage them in distractions, things like that. So it's an inverted kind of loyalty. Got it? Yeah? Anybody do that? Yeah. Okay. Next one. If from the depths of your heart you admire all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' practice of virtue, your own source of virtue will increase many times over. Okay? But to rejoice over the small mishaps that befall someone you dislike is unseemly admiration. Okay, so this one is called inverted. Here it says admiration, here it's rejoicing. Okay? So we should rejoice in, here it says, talks about admire and rejoice in the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' practice of virtue. And if we do that, it makes our own mind happy, our own virtue increases a lot. But instead of rejoicing over the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' virtue, or even the virtue of our Dharma friends, and even, the virtue, whatever goodness there is in the world, instead of rejoicing over that, we rejoice when our enemy gets harmed. Okay? So that's really the wrong kind of rejoicing. Okay? So we rejoice, in the harm, when our enemies get harmed, but we're indifferent towards the actions of those who act to benefit others. And if you think about that, in the course of the day, a lot of people are doing really good things. But do we stop and rejoice at, all the doctors and nurses and people and, taking care of the sick, and people in daycare centers taking care of kids, and teachers, what they're going through trying to teach kids, all the people that are helping each other? We don't so much rejoice in their virtue. Okay? But when somebody we don't like gets criticized, we rejoice. Yeah? Or you read in the newspaper, oh, they killed so many terrorists, they killed so many, so many people. Oh, good, So we rejoice at the wrong kind of thing, inverted rejoicing. Okay, next one. You should meditate on the patience that endures whatever small sufferings and hardship arise in the course of listening, thinking, and meditating about the Dharma, that accepts whatever small hindrances occur, but does not retaliate however you may be harmed. Okay, what this is trying to say, is there's three kinds of patience, or three kinds of fortitude. Okay, so there's the fortitude that you go through to listen, reflect on, and meditate on the teachings. Yeah, it requires some fortitude, doesn't it, to engage in Dharma practice. It requires fortitude to accept hindrances and to keep on practicing even when there are hindrances or obstacles, or when we get sick or things like that. And there's a third kind of fortitude to not retaliate when other people criticize us or blame us or beat us or something like that. Okay, so those are the right kinds of fortitude or patience that we want to practice and we want to develop. But it is misplaced fortitude if instead you endure the various sufferings which result from subduing your foes and caring for your relatives and so forth, motivated by the 8 worldly concerns. In other words, we should have those three kinds of fortitude: to practice the Dharma, to go through suffering, to not retaliate, but instead we have the fortitude that it takes to increase our wealth, to retaliate, to harm our enemies and help our friends. Okay, that's the wrong kind of fortitude. It's misdirected in the wrong, In other words, lots of patience, fortitude for worldly activities. Yeah, but very little of the kind of patience and fortitude that we really need to make our practice go ahead. So it's inverted. It's inverted. Okay, the next one. Okay, having entered the door of the great vehicle doctrine, in other words, the Mahayana, you should experience the flavor of this holy teaching by hearing and contemplating it. But on the contrary, to indulge in sense pleasures and motivated by attachment to taste your enemy's defeat and your relative's defense is to experience the wrong flavor. These things should be given up. So this is inverted flavor, okay, or inverted taste. In other words, we should taste the Dharma. Yeah, what we want to is, having entered the door of the great vehicle, we should experience the Dharma. That's called tasting the Dharma. Yeah, but instead of tasting the Dharma, which only comes about through engaging in practice over time, yeah, instead we revel in the pleasures and enjoyments from ignorance, anger, and attachment. Okay, so the pleasure of somebody we can't stand having a problem, the pleasure of defending our relatives and getting them to like us, and the pleasure of hurting the people we don't like. Okay, I mean, a lot of people, this is what their life is about, isn't it? And if we look closely, our life could very easily be about helping our friends and the people we like, friends and relatives, and harming the people we don't like. Okay? But that's the wrong, we're tasting the wrong thing there. Okay? Yeah. The taste of victory over our enemy, it should be the taste of victory over the afflictions. Got it? Okay. Okay. So I think these kinds of things are quite interesting to think about, because they give you one word, one idea, and then you see, how many different directions it can go in. And then you look in your own mind and, which direction do I take on this? What is my intention for? Where do I have fortitude in my life? Okay. Yeah, I have lots of fortitude in being very particular about arranging my room the way I want it and arranging everything the way I like it, okay? But no fortitude to do the meditation practice according to the instructions. Okay? So these things, how our mind goes off. Yeah, well, you'll use one quality in one direction, but not use that same quality in a way that it really should be used to advance what's meaningful. Okay, stay up late at night talking and, hanging out with friends and having a good time, but can't stay up late at night to do a little bit more practice. Have to be in bed by a certain time, otherwise I can't make it. But if there's something fun to do, I can stay up much longer and not feel tired the next day, right? Okay, so those kinds of things. Okay, now the next one says, don't be sporadic, or don't be erratic. And this refers to meditating occasionally and performing some virtues of body and speech in the name of the Dharma, but without wholehearted faith in the practice of mind training, being chiefly involved in amassing wealth for this life. Okay? So you're sporadic. You do a little bit of Dharma, you create a little bit of virtue, say a few mantra, make a few offerings, but we don't have wholehearted faith in it. But where does our faith go? And where does our energy go? Accumulating the wealth of this life, getting other people to praise us, creating a good reputation, getting some praise and approval from other people. Okay, so we're sporadic. It's difficult for us to practice the Dharma in a continuous way. Yeah, because we'll start and then, we get hooked to go off after worldly things, and then we come back to the Dharma, and then we get hooked again, and okay, like that. So instead of behaving like this, it is appropriate to concentrate all activities of body, speech, and mind single-pointedly on this practice of mind training. This is because this is the sole path traversed by all the Buddhas of the 3 times. Okay? So you could think, boy, this guy's, really talking so much about, always doing something with mind training. He's so strict. Can't you kind of enjoy life a little bit, Like what's wrong with, going out for a beer, going to the movies, and, having relations, what's wrong with all these things? This guy's always mind training, mind training. What's the story? Yeah. And so, concentrating all your activities of body, speech, and mind single-pointedly on mind training. Shouldn't we have a diversified life? Yeah? Do you remember when somebody was here at the Abbey and they asked, one of the Geshis was here, and they asked that question? Yeah, do you remember that? Yeah? And somebody said, isn't it a little bit off balance? Just all the time practicing the Dharma? Can't we just kind of have a normal life? Do these kinds of things, and if you have a certain mindset, always thinking thought training, it sounds very extreme. Yeah, sure, balanced life, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But if you really think about impermanence and death, and you really have an understanding of how our actions create our experience, and you have an understanding of cause and effect, then you see, oh, that's why he's talking about mind training all the time, because every single moment we are creating the causes for what we're going to experience, and we're also experiencing the effects of what we've done in the past. So, if we just experience effects and don't try and create good causes and just react to the effects in our usual way with ignorance, anger, and hate, ignorance, anger, and attachment, then where are we going to get? Just more of the above. And so if we really want to have a happy life, and if we especially want to get out of this cycle of existence, then, really putting our mind intently all the time in the Dharma is so important. There's no time to waste. People say, I want a day off. Yeah? God, retreat is so hard. I sit in that hall all day, concentrating. I'm exhausted. I want a day off. Can't we go to the beach? Well, you have a long way to go to get to the beach from here. Yeah, but as if kind of, there's a day off from samsara. We can take a day, we can afford to take a day off from creating virtue. Yeah, while we're still reaping the results of our karma, and we're still creating karma, to take a day off from creating virtue. Doesn't make much sense, does it? Okay. So if you go to the beach, you have to do so with a bodhicitta mind. And then have some kind of purpose. Yeah. We took one of my teachers to the beach once. This was a purposeful visit to the beach. And he, Sangha Rinpoche, very old Lama, and we took him to Santa Monica Beach, and there were all these sea anemones, yeah, the ones that kind of close up, and Rinpoche would put his mala kind of there, and they would kind of close up. I think that's how he was giving them blessings. I think it was quite a meaningful trip for all those sea anemones, getting all those blessings. And then he made a remark which I will never forget. Hopefully I will never forget this. Because there are all the people lying on Santa Monica Beach, I used to love to lie on the beach. And Rinpoche said, what are they doing? They just got done with being reborn in the ocean, and now they're trying to go back in. You know? It's like you just got out of a rebirth as, you know, a squid or a jellyfish or a sea anemone or a crab or a, you know, some kind of fish there in the ocean. Just, you know, got out of that and have a human rebirth. And what do? You go running back into the ocean and then lie on the beach. It was a good comment, wasn't it? It's really, really stuck. This was many years ago he said that. It really stuck. Mm-hmm. And Senchim Serkim Rinpoche, when they took him to the top of the Eiffel Tower, you know how everybody wants to go to Paris and you want to go to the Eiffel Tower. It's like, wow, the thing to do. Go to the Eiffel Tower. So we went up to the top of the Eiffel Tower and he says, it's nice, but the only way to go is down now. You know, it's like you're born in the peak of samsara, in this single-pointed samadhi bliss, but the only place goes down after that. Or you have some kind of fame, or some kind of wealth, or some kind of recognition, or some kind of elaborate, whatever it is, the samsaric thing we aim to have. But you get that, and then the only place to go is down after that. Isn't there? You know, there's all these things that we kind of long for. Oh, if only I had, if only I had, if only I had. But even you get them, then the only place to go is to lose them. Isn't it? Yeah?
Isn't in that experience what drives one to want to practice? Like a heartfelt level, having those things, and also experiencing the impermanence on the, you know, a real level, not that makes one sincerely want to do those.
Yeah. Okay, so your question is, isn't having that experience of going to the top of the Eiffel Tower and then having to come down, having your great whatever it is you want, and then seeing it crash, isn't that what can turn your mind to the Dharma? Yes, definitely. Definitely. And I think, you know, for many people, that is what makes them look for something more meaningful in their life, is when something that they've had that they thought was really important, they get separated from it, they lose it. Then they stop and say, wait a minute, you know, what is really meaningful in my life? How should I be directing my energies? And so yes, definitely it can turn people to the Dharma. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But once you've met the Dharma, then to go outside and look for those things again, you know, then it's one of those things, like I was saying a couple of weeks ago, it's we should learn from our own experiences and, you know, try and learn from other people's experiences. Although there are some things, and I know in my own life, there's some things that I had to experience for myself to really know they weren't satisfactory. Yeah, because I had so much illusion about them, so much fantasy about certain things that I had to have them to see that they weren't worth it. But at a certain point, you don't want to have had everything, because then you never finish, do you? So then you never have time to practice the Dharma. Make sense? Yeah? Yeah?
So at that point, having the other than what one would want to look for is death, essentially. It's cultivating that.
Cultivating what?
Death, impermanence. If one is, you should have the Dharma, you don't go outside and look for the pleasure. Mm-hmm. One focuses and goes outside and looks for impermanence and death.
No. Okay, you're saying if you have the Dharma and you know the pleasure's not worth it, then do you cultivate impermanence and death? We don't have to cultivate impermanence and death. They happen. Okay, we don't have to cultivate them. What we want to do is, with an awareness that those things don't bring the lasting kind of happiness that we thought they did, then we turn our mind to a good direction, such as investigating the nature of reality, such as learning to practice generosity and ethical conduct, learning fortitude and concentration, and developing bodhicitta. Okay? It isn't that you say, oh, well, all those things aren't what they, aren't what they're cut out to be, so there's only impermanence and death, and this life is totally worthless. No, that's not where the Buddha wants us to get. Okay, our purpose is not to feel that this life is totally worthless. Our purpose is to feel that this life is special. We have a precious human life. It's a very special life, full of meaning, full of value. But the meaning and value don't come from just getting temporary pleasure. That we're going to have to separate from. The meaning and value come from transforming our mind and developing really wonderful attitudes and practices that can benefit us in future lives and keep us on the path and enable us to actualize full enlightenment and to develop the kind of qualities and traits where we can make our life meaningful for others. Okay? So the meditation on impermanence and death, it's done for a specific reason. It's so important with all these meditations. We have to understand in what situations we do them and what the conclusion is that we're trying to draw from the meditation. We meditate on impermanence and death when our mind is so stuck in hallucinations of sense, pleasure, happiness, that we can't practice the Dharma. Yeah, at that point, when I'm sitting there just kind of goggle-eyed, I want this and I want that and I want this and that and the other thing, then my mind's like way too excited and in la-la land. So I gotta sober it up and think, well, even if I got this stuff, I'm gonna separate from it when I die, and it's impermanent. So it's not going to bring me lasting happiness. So then I sober my mind up. Then, having a sober mind, I direct that balanced mind in a good direction towards generating bodhicitta, towards meditating on emptiness, towards doing some good kind of Dharma practice. Okay? So the meditation on death and impermanence is done for a specific purpose. Okay, are you getting what I'm saying? This is quite important. Yeah, we don't just sit there and all this pleasure in life is illusory and life is crap because it's all just impermanence and I'm going to die. It's worthless, it's meaningless. Does that attitude seem like the kind of joy His Holiness has? Do you think that's the mental state that the Buddha taught because he wanted us to have that mental state? I don't think so. Okay? So it's really important with all these different meditations that we know exactly why they were taught, what circumstance to use them in. Okay? And then how to steer our mind in a good direction. Okay?
That's what we're doing with the teachings right now.
Yeah.
We could write an inverted meditation on death and add it to that list.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. An inverted meditation on death. Right. Yeah. Clear? Got it? Okay. So, don't speed. Okay. So, this one about don't be sporadic or erratic is to practice continuously, and especially not sometimes we'll get this real emotional feeling of renunciation, like, oh, nothing in this world is worth anything. I've got to generate bodhicitta immediately. And we sit down and we meditate so diligently for 2 days. And then on the 3rd day, it's like, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep in today. Yeah. Okay? So this is what it's meant about being erratic, that we will get these kind of very emotional experiences, but we can't sustain them. And so, we'll go really overboard in one direction and then flop back after a while. Okay? And so this is something that all my teachers have recommended. Rather than do that, it's don't be the bunny rabbit, be the tortoise. Yeah, it's much better. You do your daily meditation practice. You do a daily meditation practice that's reasonable for you every day without failure, and you just keep doing it and build it up gradually. That's much more reliable than, kind of 2 days without sleeping to meditate on bodhicitta, and then after that you sleep and forget about dharma, and I've done my 2 days. Okay, that's done with. Okay, so the thing is, because always when we're cultivating the dharma, what happens that we'll have very strong experiences and then they fade, right? Doesn't that happen to you? You'll have some strong experience like, I get it now. And then the next day it's like, you kind of remember the idea, but you don't have that same experience. Okay? So instead of like being so up when you have the experience and so deflated when you can't hang on to it, when you have the experience, say, oh, that's very good, that's very nice. I know this is possible. I'll try and just, keep it steady and remind myself of it every day. Yeah. But if it fades, instead of getting depressed and down, just think, oh, now I'm so glad that I know that it was possible to actually experience that. And I know that because cause and effect works, that if I keep creating the cause and keep doing this meditation in a continuous way, then the experience will come again, and in some time it will become a stable experience. Okay? So instead of, being so up and down in our practice, trying to be stable and not having such strong expectations, of a quick fix or a quick flash, but just the willingness to practice over a long time, and, and if experiences fade, say, that doesn't matter, I'm just glad that I know it's possible to feel like that. And if I keep practicing, that will develop in a steady way. Okay? Yeah, so really instead of just practicing frantically and then our practice doesn't get the way we want it to, then we just say, it's useless, kerplunk, and leave it. Okay? Yeah. And I know His Holiness is very concerned about that. He says that Westerners, that he thinks this is one of our biggest problems, is that we have so much expectation for quick changes and for, deep, profound experiences that are going to radically transform everything in a short amount of time. We're wanting a pill, aren't we? Yeah? And he keeps saying over and over again, it's a practice of just, familiarization, continuous practice, training the mind day after day after day. And that that kind of expectation for peak experiences can lead us to drop the practice afterwards. I got it, and I lost it. Yeah. So the problem isn't having the experiences. It's nice to have them. The problem is, how do we relate to them afterwards? And sometimes, getting so attached to some experience and then trying so hard to recreate it. I want to recreate that bliss I felt. That's not the way to recreate bliss, is it? So we have to have kind of a relaxed mind to go about our practice. Okay, next one says, practice unflinchingly. So this supports the previous point. Without wavering, integrate all aspirations into one purpose. Okay, so unflinchingly, just keep doing it. And I think this is really the importance of the bodhicitta motivation. It's like, I'm going to become a Buddha for sentient beings, and however long it takes, 3 countless great eons, it doesn't matter. I'm happy because I know I'm going in a good direction. Yeah? And so that attitude gives you the ability to practice over time, no matter what's going on in your life. Okay, so we have a little bit of time for questions. Yeah.
I'm wondering about keeping bodhicitta in thought after thought.
Uh-huh. How do you keep bodhicitta thought after thought? It's an amazing thing to think about, isn't it? Have thought after thought to keep bodhicitta in your mind. I think it's that thing of just training our mind in bodhicitta so well that, like I said, even if it's not the manifest thought, it's the underlying intention for what we do. And so, first of all, it's a thing of generating the bodhicitta. And to do that, we have to do the series of meditations. Yeah? If we just sit there and say, well, I cherish others more than myself, that's not going to be the actual feeling. Okay? I mean, this is why I think the Lam Rim is so special, and the thought training teachings here, is there's a method to follow to train your mind to get you to that feeling. Because we can't just tell ourselves what to feel. Yeah, we have to do those meditations in that way to get to that feeling, then focus on the feeling as much as we can, and then repeatedly do it again and again and again and again, so that it becomes very normal and natural. Yeah? It's like, when we're angry, we spend a lot of time, all of our reasons, what this person did and why our anger is valid and why we should harm them. We follow this exact train of thought, don't we, to create this incredible hatred towards somebody. And then we familiarize ourselves with it over and over and over. So even when you wake up in the morning, your first thought is, I can't stand that person. I hope I get to retaliate today. So that's the inverted familiarization, isn't it? But it's the same process in generating bodhicitta. We've got to do the meditations and then familiarize ourselves again and again and again. Keep bringing our mind back to bodhicitta. Yeah? And so this is, it's a practice of mindfulness too, holding the mind on the aim of enlightenment for the benefit of others. When the mindfulness strays, renewing it. Or even, like I said, we can't be thinking about bodhicitta all day. Sometimes, you've got to look at the email and stuff. But your underlying motivation when you're looking at the email is a bodhicitta motivation. When even meditating on emptiness, when you're doing that, bodhicitta isn't manifest actively in your mind, but your meditation on emptiness is supported by bodhicitta. Okay? Yeah?
There's a question online. The countless 3 great eons seems overwhelming. Is it okay to feel happy if I am going in a good direction, even in just this life? Can I build up to that motivation?
Okay, so 3 countless great eons is a long time. How about just feeling happy I'm going in a good direction this life? Definitely. We should definitely feel happy in this life that we're going in a good direction and rejoice about it. Definitely. Okay? But if we have happiness for going in a good direction, why limit it to this life? Why not let that happiness of going in a good direction extend for however long it takes us to become enlightened? Yeah, instead of losing that happiness and feeling of meaning in your life at the time I die, let's just keep it going. Okay? Makes sense, doesn't it? Other questions? Yeah?
The analogy that's been used before is when one works out, it pains or it hurts.
Uh-huh.
You're more than happy to do it because you know the result. So in those practices that you said, my mind's saying that faith is so necessary in order to do it with joy. Otherwise it becomes a should. This is bad, you should do this.
Right.
This is how it is.
Right.
Before one really takes hold of the practice, is faith really necessary?
Okay. Okay, so you're talking about the importance of practicing the Dharma with a happy mind, and do you need to have faith in the practice in order to do it so that you'll get somewhere? And the example you gave is very good, that sometimes when you work out, it's exhausting, but you know that it's good for your health, and you know that you're going to feel well after you work out. And so that knowing that you're going to feel better later, that faith in that gives you the strength to do the workout now. Yeah, yeah. And that's the same thing behind what we were talking about, this worldly fortitude. You know I'm going to make a lot of money, and so I'm willing to, put my nose to the grindstone now and, do all these things so that I can make a lot of money later. So you have faith, in causality, that what you're going to do is going to bring you the result you want. And so it's similar in the Dharma practice of, okay, when you're practicing the Dharma, you're going to have to do some purification and create merit and do all these things. But you know that the reason you're doing them is you're going to wind up with something very good, and you have faith in that method to do it. Okay? So you have that faith that carries you through, but then also, instead of thinking of the Dharma practice as this incredible burden, because if we go into Dharma practice with, well, it's a burden, so it's only faith that I'm going to feel good later that's going to carry me through, that's not going to work. And the same with working out. If you think, I hate working out, but I'm going to feel better later, are you going to work out? No. If you really see working out as a drudgery, you're not going to do it, even if you know it's good for your health and you're going to feel better later. So you've got to have some good feeling about what you're doing right now, instead of going into something with a bad attitude. Okay? And so that's the whole thing about our attitude when we start something off. Like, if you're starting off an exercise program, if you go in with the attitude of, I hate to exercise, for sure it's not going to work. Yeah. You have to go in with, well, I've never really exercised before, so let's try it and see what it's like. Yeah? And then you find, oh yeah, it's kind of nice walking. I was a couch potato for so long, but walking is fun, and doing this is fun. Okay? So it's the same with your Dharma practice. If you go in with this attitude of, oh, it's a beast of burden, you're not going to be able to practice. Yeah? You have to go in, oh, actually, when I'm generous, I feel good. When I stick to a meditation schedule, I feel good. Okay? Something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
I also think that part of what helps me is that, and it actually takes me some doing to train my mind to be able to look at the benefit that has already occurred. Because I will underestimate the good things that are happening in my mind and overestimate the not so good things that are happening. So for me to even continue when things get tough is to see, well, what were you like last year? You know, because the affliction's the same, but it's like, you know, you're not sitting with it for 3 weeks, you're sitting with it for 3 days. You know, you really have to start seeing how the Dharma has really worked, because that's what fuels me when I get into these
Come up here and talk. Come on. Quickly, we're already at 5 after. Fast, fast.
I just wanted to say that besides just knowing that the benefit is, I've got to look at this the improvement from behind. You know, when I first met the Dharma, because I was such a wild person, that the improvement in my mind was shown quite quickly. It's only when you start practicing and getting into the nitty-gritties of a lot of the afflictions that you really have to remember where you've been, and that you've really gained some ground, and you're being able to look at the afflictions, see them earlier, apply the antidotes more quickly, and giving yourself a lot more encouragement. So I look back at the stuff from last year and 5 years ago, and that's when I can see that it's worth it.
Okay, so with that, I'll close the evening.